Welcome to a session about preparing a portfolio for the Student Journalist of the Year contest with our guest, Julia Poe. Julia was the 2015 winner of the Kansas Scholastic Press Association's Student Journalist of the Year Award. Her portfolio gathered work from her journalism career at Shawnee East High School in Prairie Village, Kansas, along with independent work and internship work. The portfolio is hosted on a website that she designed to showcase her writing, design, photography, videography, social media, and more. Julia's portfolio advanced to the national contest sponsored by the Journalism Education Association. Competing against portfolios from around the country, Julia's work was honored as the very best. She was named the 2015 National Student Journalist of the Year during the National Scholastic Journalism Convention in Denver during April of 2015. Since graduating from Shawnee Mission East, Julia enrolled at the University of Southern California, where she is studying political science and print and digital journalism. She's speaking to us today from Los Angeles. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you.
So the first thing that we wanted to ask today is, why journalism? What was your entry into journalism? How did you start in journalism at Shawnee Mission East or even earlier?
Okay, so when I was a freshman, I did not want to do journalism. I was actually kind of bitter that I was in the class because I wanted to be on our dance team, and I had a really bad back injury, so I wasn't really able to do very well in our auditions earlier that year. And our dance team at my school requires you to have a class put away in your schedule for dance team. So when I didn't make the team, I had to go to my backup, which was Journalism 1, and I was so unbelievably bitter about it. And I stopped being bitter about it like day 2 because I met our advisor, who is incredible. And basically by the second or third week of that J1 class, I knew that I was going to be joining Harbinger, and I joined second semester of freshman year, and by the second week of that semester, I knew I was going to be a journalist. Like, it just was an immediate connection that I had.
And to be clear, your advisor's name is Dow Tate, and the Harbinger is the name of the high school newspaper, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So talk a little bit about the work that we'll see in your portfolio when people look at it. What sort of things are in there, and what publications did you create them for? Where did the work come from?
Yeah, so the majority of my work came from my time that I spent on the Harbinger. I was really proud of the fact that I was able to include stuff from my sophomore year, my junior year, and my senior year. So that was the bulk of what I was giving to that competition, was work from the Harbinger. I had also had I'd had one internship where I had worked with a women's soccer team over the summer, and I had done a lot of game recap and photography for them. So I included work from that. I also included work from a business that I had worked with locally, just designing a website, and also from a journalism camp I'd been to over the summer. I got to interview a surgeon general and talk about some recent healthcare reform that had been happening in Boston. And so I included mainly work from my high school journalism, but I also pulled from basically every outside opportunity I had had.
Great. So talk about when you started your portfolio. How far ahead of the February 2015 deadline did you start working on actually assembling it?
I started working over winter break of that year, so pretty early, but I wasn't working before then. And so winter break, I started going through all my clips and all my work from the past. I just basically pulled up my name on our website and started scrolling through everything I've done, and just started pulling out things. I had a list of the categories, because there's the 11 categories. I had a list of the categories, and as I came to something that was good, I would write it down next to that category and kind of started seeing what I could fill up and where I needed to go back and be like, okay, I know I've done this, but where is it? And so that's what I did over winter break, and then I just started working on it a little bit every day. It's a very time-consuming process, just because if you put the level of attention to detail that I did into your website, it takes forever. It is such a long process, especially when you're putting that many clips in.
So after that process of sorting things according to those 11 categories that JEA gives you, where did you go from there? You had work selected, but what was the next step after that?
Yeah, after that was finding what I wanted my website to look like. I felt like I had an idea, but I didn't want to have to code my own theme, obviously. So I hopped on Squarespace. I love them, absolutely adore them, still using them for my portfolio. I hopped on Squarespace, I found the theme that I liked, and then I just started plugging things in. My first like really big decision was how I wanted to set up my nav bar. So like if you don't know what a nav bar is, it's like the bar at the top of a website. And I needed to figure out how I wanted to sort things because I didn't want to just throw all 11 categories across the nav bar. Don't do that. It just doesn't look good. It's too much information. And so I got my nav bar figured out of how I wanted to do, like, I think I ended up doing like writing, multimedia, other work, something like that. But I figured out my nav bar, and then from there I just started plugging things in. I put the categories at the bottom, so I had like my nav bar at the top, and you can see this on my website. Or no, you can't actually. I have to change this now. So this is a fun tip. I put all 11 categories at the bottom in a footer that stayed no matter what page you were on, and then you could click at any point in time. You could click on one of those, and when you clicked on one of those like links to any of those pages, it would take you to a page, let's say like a writing page, that would let you know every single sample that I had for writing. If you went down and clicked like news literacy, you could find everything, because I had articles like the Suicide Project, which we'll probably talk about later, that fit like every category. That fit every single category, all 11, just done. So it could go into all of those categories. So it was like an extra form of navigation. And I would suggest doing that. That took forever.
So after that process of structuring and building it, especially that initial time, what was the next step for you? Was it done at that point, or were there more things that came after?
Well, like always with my work, once I felt like I had a perfect finished product, I gave it to my mom and Tate, and they just ripped it apart and then put it back together. I'd say once you have your site together, then your main thing, well, then you've still got your essay and your, and what else do you have to do? Letters of rec and stuff like that. So you've still got other things to do. The website is like the meat and potatoes of it, but you still have to like take care of everything else as well. But as far as the site goes, edits, lots and lots of edits. I remember one of the few pieces of feedback that one of the KSPA judges gave me was that I had like 3 typos, and realized that I was including probably a body of about 40 clips, and he was upset because there were 3 typos, and he was like, "You've got to fix that before you go to the national competition." And that's the level of detail that these judges are giving you, so you have to have the same expectations. So I would say throw it to your parents, throw it to your advisor. Don't have your staff edit it. It's just weird. They'll just praise you and be like, "Yay, good job," and like not actually give you hard edits. If you know that you have no typos and no mistakes and your site is super clean, at that point you can't be upset if you don't like do well, because you've done everything that you can. But if you don't do everything that you can, you're going to be really disappointed if you go back and you're like, "Oh, I had 10 typos. That might have been the decision."
What was the hardest part for you about putting the portfolio together?
Oh, it was time consuming. I'm glad we didn't try to do it during football season. I didn't have to do that, because that would have been insanity. Luckily I had like more free time, because it was third quarter senior year, which is when most kids stop going to school and start sleeping more. So I just stopped going to school and started working on my journalism of the year portfolio instead. So it was just the time that went into it. I remember just being so frustrated, especially when I got there's this point, at least for me, where I got halfway through and I put so many clips into my portfolio, a lot more than a lot of other people did. But I just got like halfway through my portfolio and I could see how much I had done and I could see how much I still had to do, and I just was like, this is so time consuming. I remember looking at my mom and being like, if I don't win this, like if I don't win state and I put all this time into this, I'm going to just lock myself in a room and cry for a day. Like, this is so difficult. But I think it's as difficult as you make it, and the harder it feels, the more likely that you are going to win, because that means that you're actually like working your butt off and trying to put all the attention and detail in. But honestly, I feel like I made it really easy for myself. I wasn't the kid who, like, November of senior year was looking at the list of 11 things and was like, whew, I've never made a video, I've never shot pictures, I've never broadcasted, I've never, like, I wasn't that person. I already had the clips, I just had to put them together. I do know people who went out and did photography in November and December of senior year to put in their portfolio, and that kind of, like, I don't know, they can tell when you do that. So don't make it hard on yourself, especially, like, I don't know if there's any juniors listening to this, but if you're a junior, start doing everything now. If you're a senior, like, get out of this workshop and go start shooting video right now, because A, it'll make you better, and B, like, you need it. You don't want to do that in December when you should be working on your portfolio.
How much did you know about putting together a website or a digital portfolio before you started doing this?
Well, at this point, I'd been online editor-in-chief of the Harbinger for like a year and a half, assistant editor for a year before that, so I was really well versed in WordPress. Squarespace was pretty much the same format, very easy to use. So I think I had the overall, like, idea. I had the overall idea put together, like, really well in my head, and I knew what good web design looked like. At least I hope so. I think my portfolio is good web design. But so I had a lot of experience. I know a lot of people didn't, and so putting together a website was really difficult for them. There were a few times that I got really stuck because I needed to get in the back end of my site and code some stuff in the back so that it wouldn't, like, do things that were really funky. If you have issues, YouTube has a lot of really good tutorials just walking you through. Also, Squarespace, in my opinion, is the easiest platform to use. They like, that's how they market themselves. So use Squarespace.
So those 11 categories, like you mentioned, they can be pretty intimidating for people who have focused on one type of media or one type of journalism for most of the time when they've been in high school, whether they've been a photographer overwhelmingly or they've been a writer overwhelmingly. That can be pretty tricky for them. Do you have any advice besides get started early about how to widen yourself for this portfolio process in terms of different types of media or different types of journalism work?
Yeah. And this is something that my advisor always tells me, but if you want to be a journalist, you have to get out there and do everything. They're not paying people or hiring people who could just do one thing anymore. And you'll have more fun with it. So if you want to get started with this stuff, honestly, make friends with people on your staff who do things differently than you. Whether that's they write in different medium than you do, or they use a different platform for journalism than you do. Just being able to go out and shoot with people is good. Like, if you have a photog buddy on staff, just be like, hey, can I come shoot the soccer game with you? Bottom line, what you have to do is you have to just reach out, and there's no way to do different mediums of journalism except for just jumping in and doing it, which can be really intimidating. Like, you've got this huge piece of, like, expensive equipment and you don't know how to use it. Just start shooting. Just see, and your first gallery is going to be awful. My first gallery that I shot was I'm not a photographer at all. I get teased for how bad I am at photo and design. I'm not good. My first thing that I shot freshman year, I shot a lacrosse championship at Sporting Park that our school was in, and I had this camera that I thought was on autofocus that was on manual focus. and I shot the entire game out of focus, and it was awful. But I still learned a lot from it. So be ready to fail. Just go do it. Fail, and fail like brilliantly. Fail, just like get in there and own the fact that you don't know what you're doing, and ask a lot of questions, and don't be the kid that sits in the corner and like takes a few pictures. Like, just be everywhere, because you're going to do that and you're going to mess up, and then you're going to come back and look at your shots or look at your video or your design or whatever, and or your writing, and you're going to be like, okay, this was really bad, but here, this was okay. This part was okay, so we'll do that again in the future. This was awful, so we're never going to do that again. Like, we're never going to try to use this type of anecdote lead. Never again. And you'll learn from that.
So obviously there are some things that you are way more comfortable with and that you felt like were, you're in your wheelhouse, your real strengths. When you wanted to show off something in your portfolio, when there was something that you felt like, this is the thing that people are going to identify and remember about me because it's excellent and it's something that I'm proud of, what were those pieces in your portfolio?
Oh gosh. Well, it's kind of, you can just tell by the hierarchy of my site. So obviously when you go on a website, the first thing you do is you look top left corner, and like, this is how we read, is, left to right, top to bottom. So I put my writing, left, very first thing on my nav bar that people would go to, because writing's my strong suit. Also, this kind of went for everything. Once you got into the post, I had this little thing at the top that was so pretentious, but apparently the judges loved it, where I had like a little infographic design thing of a little like award ribbon, and then I had like whatever award it won, and I did that on every single post, even if it had just won like state story of the month, third place, like if it was just little, even I just like put it there to make it clear that, because I think, pretty sure everything in my portfolio had one of those on it. And so I put at the top, like, I made it big. I was like, this one NSPA National Story of the Year, this story, like, just put that at the top. And like, I am not the type of person that brags about myself. I hate talking about myself. But when I put you can attest to that, I freaking hate it. But when I put together my portfolio, that was my one time to be like, I'm your girl.
How has the portfolio served you since then? You've said you've already made some edits to it and it's already changed, so it's obviously something that's kind of a living, breathing, changing thing. How has it served you?
Oh my God, so many ways. So it's why I'm here. I got my portfolio done, and after I won National Journalist of the Year, I was on track to probably end up going to somewhere in the Midwest, and my dream school was USC. So I called them and I emailed them, and they didn't really say anything on the phone, but when I emailed them, I let them know that I had won National Journalist of the Year, and I sent them my portfolio, and they sent me back an exceptionally hefty scholarship within like 24 hours based on everything they had seen from the portfolio and the fact that I had won National Journalist of the Year. So they tacked that onto my half ride, and magically I had enough money. I've sent my portfolio into every single student publication that I've applied to here. I don't like walk into newsrooms and be like, Journalist of the Year here, give me a story. Like, I don't do that, but I just like subtly send it to them when I like apply for things or say that I want to do a beat. I'm like, hey, can you look at my work and tell me like what you think I should be on? And I'm writing cover for the Daily Trojan right now for next week, which it's one of the best daily student like college newspapers in the country, if not in the world. And I'm a freshman, and they're giving me some like story about like an administration scandal. It definitely elevates me and my other friends. I have multiple state journalists of the year friends who are at USC with me right now, and it helps all of us, even though they're in international relations and public policy. It's still the type of thing where when they send something in for an internship, they can send in this baseline of work, and someone can be like, hey, they did some really great political coverage here. That's awesome, So it's just really impressive, honestly. I don't think high school journalists get enough credit for how much work we do. You guys all know that. I know that. I didn't have a social life in high school. Probably won't know I'll have one in college, but like still not like journalism takes over your life in high school. So it just kind of like backs up all of that. So yeah, it's the best, honestly. It's gotten me so far already. It's just been like 6 months, and it's done so much for me. I mean, the work that I did back in February has done so much for me since. So if I hadn't had that body of work, I would have been that person scrambling to go take photos. From like, if you have all your work together, like you get to December and you're like, okay, I have everything that I need to do, you're gonna be fine. You're just putting together a website. But once you get into the process, it's easy. You're home free. You just have to like put your social life on hold for 2 months.
What's next for you? Where are you going to head from here? What are your goals for journalism and just Julia Poe in general?
Well, I'm at USC right now, and it's a pretty great place. I would highly suggest all journalism students check it out. Fight on. It's the best school in the country, if not the world. So I'm at USC right now. I'm working on the Daily Trojan, which is our print publication, and Neon Tommy, which is our online digital platform. I'm going to be doing some radio and TV next semester, but I took too many hours this semester to do that. And I'm hoping for an internship in the LA area for next summer. I'd really like to stay out here for a bit, but I'm probably going to travel around a lot, especially my goal was the LA Times, and now all this crap happened this week with the LA Times, and it's freaking me out. Definitely just a lot of travel. I'm going to be going into the media, into the journalism industry in some way, but I don't really believe in having a dream job because who knows if it'll exist in 4 years when I graduate. Cool. I'm also trying to get more involved with the LGBT community and kind of combining those two parts of my life. Both of those things are really important to me, and this summer I started working a lot more with the LGBT community, so trying to hop on that here and make an impact that way as well. I don't know, I'm really looking forward to it. Los Angeles is a great place to be when you want to be in the midst of everything that's happening in the world. We're just continuing to work, just making content and seeing where it takes me.
Well, thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate you being here. Are there other things that you want to add? Any other pieces of advice?
I think a big thing for me, because I've had a lot of people come to me asking how you win Journalist of the Year, and that's a really popular question from people that I know and people that I don't know that have been asking me. And I just want to say you should never create a piece of content for the sole purpose of winning a competition, and that goes for the entirety of your life. My really good friend Chris has been nominated for multiple Pulitzers for photography, and he always talks about how you never take a photo with the goal of winning a Pulitzer, and you never go out and do a story with the hopes of winning something for it. We did a lot of things my senior year. I've talked about the suicide project a little bit in this interview, and we did a lot of things my senior year that were construed by a lot of my friends like around the country as me padding my portfolio for Journalist of the Year. And we kept doing those things after the portfolio was in. I did my biggest news story after the portfolio was in senior year, besides the suicide project. And that's because I have always been a strong believer that like the awards will come if you do good journalism, and sometimes they won't. Our suicide project was possibly in my opinion, one of the best things that a student publication has ever done. It was like 40 staffers putting together 40 pages of content along with a 32-page publication in 2 weeks, covering like one of the most controversial things that ever happened. It's a great piece of journalism. It has not won a single competition. It's won nothing. It was just a huge impact to our community, and it created a lot of dialogue in our community, and it's won nothing. And I am more proud of that project than of anything, including Journalist of the Year. You're going to make a lot of content as a student journalist, but you should never make content that is aimed at winning a competition. Yeah, it's fine to go take some photos because you need to fill in the portfolio. Like, that's fine. But don't think, oh, I'm going to write a huge cover story about alcoholism or about suicide or about gay rights or about whatever, because I need to win this competition. Because even if you do win off of that, like, your heart's not in the right place. And that's what matters. Like, journalism starts, like, I don't know, I get super sappy about this, but journalism is about, like, having a good head and a good heart. And if you're not doing things for the right reason, I don't know, in my opinion, you don't deserve to continue on in the competition. So please don't go do huge controversial stories because you want to win a competition. Just don't do it. People can tell. Don't give up being a good editor for 2 months because you're working on this. I have friends nationally who did that. You need to work on this outside of school, and you need to separate the two. The time that you're spending working on your publication cannot diminish because you're working on this. It's an add-on. You cut out that party that you wanted to go to Friday night, or the movie you wanted to go see, or your Netflix queue. That's what takes a hit. You do not stop being an editor for a second because you're working on this, okay? So those are my things. Have fun. Please bring it back home to Kansas again. You guys rock. Fight on.
Thanks so much, Julia. I really appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, thank you.